So what we're looking at today, we're looking at how to use mental time travel to help your clients make a decision. Now, your client is sitting in front of you, they're faced with a decision. What do we do? Do I go left? Do I go right? Now, I've done a previous training, of course, on a very, very effective way of how to help your clients when they're at a crossroads. This is another way, right? This is a different way. This is a way in which we're using our imagination, we're using visualization, we're using something that we call mental time travel. Now, the brain, the mind is an amazing thing, right? It's absolutely, it's crazy when you think about it. If we can really tap into the deep insights of our own imagination, then it's almost like we can travel to another world and travel to another time in order to gain insights and in order to gain lessons from maybe an older version of ourselves, or maybe us in a different place, or us at a different time. So this is what we want to do, right? We want to find out first and foremost the crossroads, the decision that your client needs to make. There's option number 1 or there's option number 2. Now, sometimes, of course, there's option number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But what we want to do is we want to try to keep this as simple as possible. So if your client is sitting there with a decision to make, primarily, there's going to be 2 different outcomes. So what we want to be doing is making it as simple as possible and only focusing on those 2 different outcomes. What we're going to do with our clients is we're going to get them to take a deep breath. We're going to get them to just relax, sit in their chair, understanding that the chair is supporting them. They're safe, they're in a place of value, they can be comforted, and we just take a few deep breaths. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Deep breath in, deep breath out. And on that 3rd breath out, what we want to do is we want to get them to close their eyes. And as they close their eyes, we're going to ask them to, first of all, pick one pathway, pick one decision, one option. And we want them to vividly imagine. You'll notice when I do my NLP techniques, when I take anybody through a process of visualization, I'm always using that word because I don't want my clients to just imagine it. I don't want them to just think about it. I want them to vividly imagine what I'm talking about. And what we do is we get them to imagine, vividly imagine that on this day, today, the day in which we're sitting in this room, they've made a decision. And they've picked one of those 2 pathways, and get them to instinctively tell you what is the decision that they've made. Now, even though of course this is only the start of the process, it's very interesting and it's very insightful to know which one instinctively they pick first. Now, even though we're going to explore both pathways, I feel like there's something in that. I feel like there's a bit of a clue there. But anyway, get them to pick instinctively one of the decisions. And then what we do is we get them to vividly imagine that their life is now unfolding in front of them, having made that decision. We're witnessing, what does tomorrow look like? What does next week look like? What does next year look like? And then eventually we move all the way forward to 5 years into the future. And we get them to vividly imagine and tell us what is the result of their life now that they have made that decision. Get them to feel it, get them to explore it, get them to really truly understand it, and even step into that version of themselves. The key with this is that we are using mental time travel and imagination to truly understand what will be the result of this decision. Where will I be? How will I be? How will I look? How will I walk and talk? Who will be around me? What would I be doing in relation to my career, in relation to relationships? How will my life have unfolded now I have made that decision? And then what we do is we get them to take a deep breath and vividly imagine themselves rewinding the clock. Rewind the clock, rewind, 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 all the way back to today. Day 1, in this room, the moment they made that decision. And what we do is we get them to vividly imagine them making the other decision, the opposite decision. And once again, we ask them, vividly imagine that your life is unfolding in front of you. You can see tomorrow, you can see next week, you can see in a year, 2 years, 5 years. You've lived it, you felt it. What has happened? What's occurred? Where are you? Who are you with? Where do you live? What's your career? What's your relationship status? What has happened as a result of that decision? And after we've explored that, and after they've felt it, and after they've understood it, then what we do is we get them to rewind the clock. Imagine rewinding the clock, you're unfolding the clock, and you're once again back here in this room. This client has not really made that decision, and they've not really lived their life twice in two different directions, but we've imagined it and we felt it and we've understood it. So what your client now has is they're in a much more well-rounded position to make a decision, essentially. They have more information based on that one simple time travel and visualization. So now they're back in the room, we want to ask them some questions. Now, what's really important about this is that they must really realize and understand what we want is instinctive answers. We don't want them to think too much about this. We don't want them to think too deeply about this. We want that gut instinct. We want that first reaction when we ask these questions. Question number one, which one felt better? And what they'll say is they go, option two. And even in that moment, if they're not able to really truly explain logically why option number two felt better or option number one, their gut is telling them, their instinct is telling them. Which one were you more proud of? Which one can you see happening? Which one do you want? Okay? So after we've asked that series of questions and they've given us an instinctive answer, the chances are your client is now going to be leaning a lot heavier towards one of the decisions than the other. Can we truly know the result of that decision? Of course we can't, because we can't tell the future. But we don't need to know that in this moment. All we need to do is we need to be able to help our clients make a decision, because there is nothing worse than indecision. Because with indecision, their life is going to unfold in front of them anyway, and they're not going to have picked a path. And what will happen is in 5 years' time, they'll look back and they'll say, I wish I did. I wish I did pick an option. I wish I did go down that road. So we want to try to help guide them towards that road as much as we possibly can, using the power of mental time travel.